Hey friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me in my craft room today. I'm so grateful to have you here. And well, speaking of grateful, I'm going to be using some new products from scrapbook.com. This is the Cozy Pattern Collection in the A2 size. There's also a 6x8. And I'm just absolutely in love with the floral patterns in this paper pad. And I wanted to use one of them for today's card. I was kind of debating between this darker one and this lighter one, but I'm going to go with the lighter colors. I was also thinking of doing a hedgehog hugs card, but I end up changing my mind because the more I look at this stamp set, the more I just really wanted to color in that fox. I also have a few different die sets because I was trying to plan out the layout in my head, and I came up with the idea when I start putting together how I want to create my background. So I'm taking the fox out of the stamp set. Again, this is the Cozy Sentiments and Critters stamp set, and I'm putting it on some alcohol marker friendly cardstock, and I'm going to stamp it 3 times. I'm going to stamp once with Crunchy Leaf dye ink from Fawn, and I stamped everything twice so I can get a nice clean impression. And I'm also going to stamp it with Jellyfish, which is kind of a um, really pale gray color, and then I stamp it in jet black. So I wanted to do 3 different types of coloring, and I'm going to kind of show how I colored all of the foxes. I did not make a coloring guide because I don't know if I love the colors that I use for the fox, but just in case you love it, it's YR172 is the darkest shade. Y140 is my lightest shade, and I will bring in one more. But when I was coloring here, I thought maybe I could get away with 2 shades, but I wasn't really loving the blend. I was trying really hard, you can see here, to really blend those 2 colors together, but I thought I needed one more. So I brought in YR260 as my midtone. So here you can see I have the YR172 again, and this is how I'm doing my no line coloring with the jellyfish. Like I said, it's a really pale gray color, and I like to use it for no line coloring. I'm still learning how to color best for no line coloring. I definitely admire so many people who color like this, especially with watercolor. I think it's so beautiful. But I am getting better. Practice definitely makes progress. So I am enjoying coloring with the no line as well. And then again, the midtone is YR260, and you can see here it's a little orangier than the other colors, so I thought it would be a good midtone. I do, like I said, not completely sold on this color combination for a fox, but I think it still turns out really cute. So I bring in the Y140 and just completely cover it in. It may grow on me and I might have a coloring guide in the future, but for now I'm still trying to debate if I want to make it an official coloring guide color combination. And then I'm going to go back through with those 3 colors again for the tail, and this time I'm showing how I colored it with my brown ink, which is that Crunchy Leaf. I like that Fawn has multiple alcohol marker friendly inks, so I can kind of experiment with what color combination and what ink looks best for the card. I was originally thinking I was going to use the brown ink one, this one here, but I end up going with the black ink, and I'll explain why when I get there. For the lighter part of my fox, I'm using YR220 as my darker tone, and I'm only going to use 2 shades for the fox for the lighter parts of him. So that was the darker tone, and YR212 was the lighter tone. I'm using R050 for the inside of the ears and to make cute little rosy cheeks on my foxes. And then I brought in BR1 to color in the feet and the nose and eyes of my no line coloring fox because the ink obviously is very light and I really wanted those darker colors to kind of pop out. So once I have them all colored, I'll also bring out a white gel pen. This is the size 10 jelly roll, Sakura jelly roll, and I'm just adding some highlights in different areas on my animals. They just bring out a little bit of fun and cuteness on my critters, and I really enjoy adding white highlights. And once I get all of those done, I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut them out off camera because you don't need to see me cutting. So all 3 are ready, and now I'm going to start working on the card assembly. I'm pulling out a sheet of that lighter floral pattern. Like I said, these are my favorite colors and patterns on this in this paper pad. And I'm bringing out my nested A2 arches because I want to create a white background for my fox to sit on. And I was debating between adding in one of the spring flowers or a circle, and I'm glad I went with the flower. I think it looks really nice when it comes together with all those flowers in the background. So once I have the dies, I know I want to make sure I have enough room for my sentiment. So I'm going to go with blessed. I thought about doing hello, but I really liked the blessed for this overall fall card. It's going to be a great, thank you card or Thanksgiving card. And I'm going to bring out some Nina Solar White cardstock. This is an A2 sheet, and I'm going to use my mint tape to die cut out my arch as well as the flower. So the flower will be a little window on the inside of my arch. So I have it centered onto the A2, although it doesn't really matter because I'm die cutting it out. And then I'm using my grid mat to help me center my flower as best as I can in that top part of the arch. I'm going to cut it out using my magic mat and my Sizzix Big Shot. So I'm going to just run this through real quick, and you can see I've created a little arch panel with the flower die cut out of the center. So more of that pattern paper can kind of just shine through and show through that flower opening. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to use my MISTI so I can stamp multiple times and make sure I get a nice clean impression. And again, I'm going to use Bless. So it fits perfectly on the bottom part of my white piece of cardstock. I'm kind of debating how high I want it to go, but I know the fox needs to sit up on top of it, so I have it a little bit lower. I decided to use Fallen Leaves, which is a dark kind of brown gray color from VersaFine. It's a VersaFine Clair, and I stamped it a couple times because it is a new stamp and it was needing to be cleaned before I used it, but I didn't clean it, so I just stamped it twice. Now I'm going to create a little kind of design between a leaf and a flower all around the rest of the arch. So I'm going to start with the leaf. I grabbed 2 Distress ink pads. I have all of the mini colors, so I'm going to use peeled paint to be the green of my leaves. And I'm going to stamp them, like I said, just around the arch. I leave plenty of room for a flower in between each of the leaves. So here I'm using Speckled Egg to stamp my flowers. I thought these 2 colors matched really well with the floral designs on the pattern paper. Once that's done, I can start assembling my card together. I'm still going back and forth on which fox I'm going to use. At this point, I still think I'm going to use the brown ink, my Crunchy Leaf ink, but I just don't know here because I wanted a soft card, but I end up stamping my sentiment with such a dark color that I feel like when I put it together, the jet black is just going to look better with that darker sentiment. I didn't trim down my panel, and you don't need to because it is an A2 sized note or pattern paper pad, so I'm just going to add some tape runner to the back side and adhere it to the front of my A2 card base. I actually had a side folding A2 base just sitting next to me, so that's why I'm doing this instead of my typical top folding. I'm getting out my foam adhesive to add the white panel, and I'm starting with the adhesive strips, and I make sure to peel off both sides of the release paper so that way it's easy to kind of bend it around that arch pattern or that arch shape, and then I completely filled the back with other foam adhesive. So here's when I finally decide the black inked fox is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to add some foam adhesive completely behind my fox. I even added one, as you can see, on the background because I knew it needed to fit perfectly inside the flower shape, so that way I didn't have to risk overlapping my foam adhesive with the white panel. To add a little bit more color and shine, I'm grabbing some pops of color. I'm starting with terracotta, and I added it to the center of all of my blue flowers, and then I'm going to add some really small dots just around the whole flower and leaf pattern. And I also add a few small dots of the orange creamsicle as well, so I have a mix of the yellow and orange with the rest of my flower and leaf design that I stamped. I tap on the inside to help dome out the pops of color so they look more like enamel dots, and here is a close-up of my final card. I really like how sweet this turned out, and that fox was really fun to color. Like I said, if this color combination grows on me, I'll make a coloring guide in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!